We have tons of updates and stories to get through today, my friends, so I have to keep things quick with the intro. You know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions, and shout out to everyone that showed love to me and Football Therapy on our recent collaboration. Comment this below. Who is the next YouTuber you'd like to see me collab with next? So my friends, hit that like button and without wasting any more time. So let's start with things by discussing one of the big stories that dropped this evening. And tonight we confirm a new sleeve sponsor for this season. Tonight we've reached an agreement with Russian-linked crypto company BingX, who are set to become our new sleeve sponsor until the end of the season. Then for the following 24-25 season, they're going to be the sleeve sponsor for our training kits. Now this deal is very reminiscent of the recent deal that we struck with Infinite Athlete, where they're going to be our main, front of shirt sponsor until this season ends. But for the following season, they're set to be the face of our training kits for the 24-25 season. So what does this communicate? We need to make some money. We had some lofty expectations in terms of sponsors we could get, but the reality simply was, for the prices we wanted, we didn't really have Champions League football or anything to give much confidence to any interested parties. So I feel like we have to kind of build our clout back up in the game a bit if we hope to bag these big boy deals. But rumours suggest that maybe for next season, we could see Riyadh Air as the front of our home season kit for next season. If we secure this could be worth absolute fortunes. Again, it's still rumours at this point in time, but I can imagine you guys aren't feeling too impressed by this news. Yet again, another crypto company, I think now that we've secured a deal with them, is now 18 out of 20 clubs in the Premier League are sponsored by some form of crypto company. So what's it really saying about the game right now? I'll let you guys decide with that one. But with our previous sleeve sponsor and Wealthin, they had to terminate that sponsorship 7 months into that deal. And they paid us around 25 million to be able to have that privilege. And the reason why they had to terminate the contract was because the business wasn't doing too well. Crypto took a bit of a hit last year. And due to that, they had to make cutbacks. Massive layoffs, of course. They had to cut back on spending as well too. So there are some risks around this. But I think the fact that this seems to be more of like an 18-month deal, with main benefit being that we can bring in some short-term cash injection, I can understand that. Due to the amount of money we've spent, I think the main priority right now is making sure that we can abide by FFP laws. That's all that matters. And if the sacrifice is that we have to strike short-term deals with companies of this nature, I understand that due to the position that we've put ourselves in. So hopefully we can acquire some better sponsors as the team improves over the following months. I can't imagine there's going to be much backlash compared to the backlash the club faced for nearly striking a deal with crypto gambling firm in stake. But my friends, I think the reality simply is, Victor Osimhen won't be paying for himself. It's going to be based on deals like this that give us the financial flexibility to be able to spend big again. That's how it works. So that's the first story out the way. Share your thoughts and opinions. And for the next story, we discuss the latest updates surrounding Estevao Willian. Now, as I've been saying, there's a lot happening behind this deal. There's a lot of legwork currently in this move, and it's one of these deals you guys should be paying attention to, because we're trying to sign one of the best young teenage players in world football. So let's break down what's happening right now. As we know, in MESSINHO's release clause, and the player doesn't like to be called MESSINHO. I respect that. He wants to build his own legacy, his own name. I get that in the young guy. But he currently has a 45 million release clause, which is around 39 million pounds. Palmeiras are hoping to earn and receive the full release clause. They want the full amount paid in one go. And that's because they own around 70% of the player's economic rights, with the remaining 30% going to Estevao Willian and people involved in that deal. So, 30% of 39 million at 16, yes, absolutely crazy. However, knowing us, anytime you see big fees and numbers, you just know that we are looking to structure that type of deal. And in terms of the proposal we've made, we've offered 17 million as a fixed fee with an additional 20 million in performance related clauses and bonuses. However, Palmeiras are remaining tough. They feel like they can get the full amount of money based on all the competition around the player right now. But I guess we have some decent news around competition, as Paris Saint-Germain are out of the running to try and sign him. Obviously, they recently beat us to signing Moscato. We'll see what happens over time. I think we're currently stacked in midfield, so I can understand the sacrifice. But going back to Estevao, As we learned in the previous story, him and his agent in Andre Curry, they are trying to persuade Palmeiras to accept a lower payment structure from Barcelona, as ideally Estevao Willian's dream is to represent Barcelona, which makes a lot of sense. But if Barca don't have the money, they have no say in this deal, especially with Palmeiras really refusing to budge when it comes to interested parties paying that full release clause. So listen, if more clubs drop out because the price is too high, could that potentially help us in a way to negotiate a structure we prefer with Palmeiras? Maybe, but there's so many rivals after him that I feel like if you really want to sign him, you might have to pay the full amount of money. To be honest, he looks like an incredible prospect. I mean, he's recently just turned 16 years old. I think there's a unique aspect behind his game in terms of how the ball is glued to his feet, how he can change directions on the fly whilst maintaining that momentum. That speed in the opening first few meters, which is so key when it comes to players who are skilled at dribbling the ball. And as Henry would say, he is one of those players that only dribbles towards the goal. Like, he is not wasting any time. Everything is direct, everything is vertical, and he's able to find solutions with his footwork, with his change of direction, with his low center of gravity, and his skill, of course, to get through to goal as quick as possible. I think this kid looks like the real deal. And alongside Kendry Pires, Estevao Willian is seen as one of the premium talents currently in Brazil. When he was 10 years old, he already bagged his first Nike sponsorship. So, you know, he's been one of the next big hopes for a long time. It's crazy money, but I do feel like for the premium teen talents, how often do they end up failing? So, listen, I understand what we have to do. And it is a bit exciting thinking about a future one day that involves maybe an Estevao, a Kendry Pires, and who else comes over the next few years. So that is the updates around Estevao Willian. And for the next story, let's discuss how next season's kits may look based on new concept images that have come out surrounding the official leak colorways for next season. As you guys are seeing, shout out to Footy Headlines for producing these concepts. I think these concepts are quite nice, and I think these concepts are pretty well thought out. Obviously, as we're seeing with Nike designs, there's a very heavy emphasis on a minimalist type of feel, and we're seeing that in the home kit for sure, and in the third kit. The home kit does intrigue me, to be fair with you. I mean, the leak suggests that it's going to be like a royal orange and blue. I think the colorway goes very well together, and I think it kind of like suits like a very youthful, young type of Chelsea team. And you know, I think it's a pretty nice concept image, and I'm really curious to see what the official kit could look like for next season. Obviously, it seems like for the second kit, expect there to be a bit of like a 3D effect going on behind the scenes. That could be quite nice, a bit interesting. Our second kits tend to be a bit more bolder. In terms of the third kit, it's only an official sponsor, but I think with the black, the neon colors, I mean, I'm not too sure. I think one thing that could definitely elevate things though is if it's a bit holographic, because I have to say, with this home season kit this season, I think it's one of our best kits in God knows how long. And it's so nice, in fact, that I think to myself, why is this kit not going to be our official kit now for the next 2 years? Like, it really is that good. The way it fits, the way it looks, obviously the holographic badge just takes it to the next level. And listen, it's going to be a shameless plug, but if you guys still haven't bought the new home season kit, away kits, third kits, or bought anything from the new club range from this season, I'm your guy, my friends. Use my discount code NINI10 at checkout to get 10% off your final order, and you'll find all the links you need provided below in the description. And now we discuss another big story that dropped this afternoon, and it involves Benfica wonder kids in Antonio Silva. Now, this report came from a journalist called Steve Brenner. He has some affiliation with The Sun, and he reports that recently we've made inquiries to Benfica over the availability of potentially signing Antonio Silva this January. Now, you can imagine that Benfica are absolutely sick and tired of us, and you know, they were probably hoping this January they have nothing to do with us again based on how things went down last year. But as we know, there is an 87 million release clause on the player's contract, and naturally in January, Benfica want the full amount of money. Now, the reporter mentions the fact that we made an initial query presenting a 52 million offer plus Armando Broja. But now that Benfica have signed Leandro, like the very, you know, talented, highly rated Brazilian young striker coming through, why would they need Armando Broja? I don't think it makes any sense. And to be honest with you, when I was reading the story, I don't know if I can fully believe it, but hear me out for a second, yeah? when I see stories like this, as I always say, it reveals the type of player, position and profile that we're looking for. With recent links surrounding Diomande to Debo, it's obvious that we want to spend big on signing a right-footed centre-back for the right-hand side. And if you ask me, with all these highly rated players we're looking at, I feel like whoever we can get for the best possible deal, most likely will get signed. So as we're seeing, we keep our ambitions high in the market. And I guess it's no surprise to me that someone of Antonio Silva's stature would naturally be reported upon, right? Obviously, since he's made his crazy introduction to life with Benfica, where of course, he was fortunate that injuries presented first team opportunities. He made his mark in the first team during that time, and Benfica and the player just have not looked back. And his breakthrough was so prominent that even his coaches in the B team felt like, listen, we know this guy has first team potential, but we were surprised by how quickly he would acclimatise to life at the highest level with the first team right now. And, it sums up the player. I mean, if I was to give you guys a bit of an understanding behind what makes him interesting, I don't want to talk about things like the passing, progressive play. I mean, all the guys we look towards do the same thing, and I'm not that much of an expert to know the difference between I don't know, Cole's passing and Badiashiel's passing. For me, it's equally as effective if you guys get the context I'm coming with. But I think what I like about Silva is that he's a thinking man's football player. He's one of those guys where when he's on the field, he wants to better his opponent. And he likes to think ahead. He likes to predict his opponent's moves. And I think he kind of knows that in his build-up play, because he's known to do these little disguised types of passes where, you think he's going to pass one way, where already he knows, okay, this ball is going down the left-hand side. And to have a player like that in the build-up phase, it's a very nice asset to have. And it reminds me a little bit of guys like Thiago Silva and Christensen in terms of how they like to move the ball and how they, the timing in which they release passes. And he definitely has that quality in his game. Now, is he as physically imposing as you'd want him to be? I don't actually think so. I think his heading is kind of mid, to be fair with you. And I don't know, I felt like we wanted to sign a dominant, force in the air. And I don't know if Antonio Silva is that player. And I don't know, when I think we have Cole and Badiashile, who are two of the best aerial guys already for their age, you could maybe use them together once in defense. I'd love to say we see that at least one time this season, but most likely not, right? But outside of that, this guy is a very intelligent defender. He's constantly thinking about his body positioning, where his position is with the rest of his teammates, all those types of qualities and details which really show his understanding of himself, his temperament, his focus in game, his concentration. And these are the type of details that, top scouts love to see in young players. So, I don't know. Do I see us signing him? Absolutely not. Do I believe he even made this query? Most likely not. But I don't think it's a lie that someone of Antonio Silva's ability is going to be on our shortlist. And as I said, it seems like we're looking to sign someone big there over the next year. So time will tell, my friends. But yeah, I guess we continue to see where the story goes. And now we end things with a final update surrounding Ian Maatsen. And as we're learning today, Borussia Dortmund are feeling very optimistic and confident that they can strike a deal with us to sign Ian Maatsen. Now, as we know, we prefer to sell him on a permanent deal this month because we need to cash in on players if ideally we want to strengthen the team. Obviously, right now, Dortmund are bulking at paying the 30 million obligation to buy fee at the end. We want that to be a bit less. I'd imagine that we'd have to find a bit of a balance because Maatsen's agreed personal terms, he wants to go there, and I just think that Dortmund right now look very exciting. Obviously, Jadon Sancho is set to return and go back to Dortmund, and I just think seeing Maatsen and Sancho down the left-hand side together, that could be pretty exciting and that could be pretty fun to watch. What's interesting though is that in this report that came from Matt Law, he mentions the fact that with Maatsen's potential or possibly imminent departure, we may look to reinvest in signing another left back. Now, that is interesting. I wonder what type of left back we go for. I mean, the two big ones that makes the fan base start dreaming is Alphonso Davies and, of course, Alejandro Balde. Even though Davies' dad is a Chelsea fan, is that enough of a push for us to get him? I'm not too sure, especially when Real Madrid have shown long-term interest in him. And Madrid come through. As we know, Bayern players tend to go to Real Madrid. In the case of Alejandro Balde, he has a 1 billion release clause in his deal, and I just can't see Barcelona losing potentially one of this generation's next great left backs in the summer. I don't see that happening whatsoever. And outside of that, I just find it pretty interesting that we're targeting or potentially looking at those types of like skillful winger-esque fullbacks. Of course, Barcola from Boca Juniors is another player that's been looked at, but then, you know, when Ian Maatsen is also in that same class of player in terms of the roles they play, not necessarily ability-wise, I guess. He never played. Pochettino prefers to use a centre-back at left-back, so I'm a bit surprised by, you know, all the links around very attack-minded left-backs. Is that something we're hoping to push over the next like 18 months potentially? Who knows? Who knows? But I hope so, because me, I'm old school. I've always liked having fullbacks that can like connect the play further up and provide those overlaps. I think top teams that normally have fullbacks like that end up playing a lot better, in my opinion. You know why? Because, you know, if you're a top team, you can't be wasteful on the ball. And if your fullbacks are essentially like wingers in the final third, that just gives you more possibilities to break teams down with. So my friends, they are all the reports that came out today. Share your thoughts and opinions. So much to digest and unpack. So take your time with this. Sit back, relax. And tomorrow, of course, you will see me again with some more videos. So my friends, I am Nini FC. This is Blue Lines TV. I will see you guys tomorrow. Cool.